couple of questions. Okay, action coach, you're good. Okay. Hi, welcome. You're in for a great show today. Stay tuned, okay? Voices of humanity, we need to hear your voices. We need to hear your voices. Hello, very warm welcome. Welcome to Voices of Humanity at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. We have a great show for you. We've got two for the price of two. We have two beautiful guests for you today, two amazing entrepreneurs, and they are here to tell you how to do it in this 21st century in these challenging times. They've had their challenges, but they are doing great, and I just want you to hear from them. We're kind of kicking off Black History Month, which, by the way, is 365 days a year. But we take the month and we really just highlight some amazing history and content. I am your host, Sandra McKechnie, and the show is Voices of Humanity, fueled by Double Consciousness. Double Consciousness is a concept put forward by W.E.B. Du Bois, social reformer. And it's really all about, some people may even call it code switching. And it's the challenge that people that have two streams of thought, two social identities have, as they try to live their culture, their ethnicity, and also live in a way in the 21st century in the Americas, people that were assimilated to be like the dominant group. And that happened a long time ago, but it's still here in our systemic construct today. And we're going to talk a little bit about we're going to show you the overcoming qualities that two of our guests have in terms of business. Okay. And we have an amazing guest for you, Michelle Ricketts. Welcome, Michelle. Yay. We're going to have
so much, Sandra. Wonderful to be here.
Thank you. Michelle and I, we actually met, I think, in a networking thing together, didn't we? I think it was,
yes.
Was it HNP?
I think so. Happy Neighborhood Project. Yes.
Happy Neighborhood Project, one of them. And also we, well, I think more so Angels are,
Angels are networking. Angels are networking. Yes, we've connected there as well.
Shout out to Michelle Reeves. That's right. I think that was the initial connection. Well, it's wonderful to have you.
Charmaine Reeves, absolutely.
Charmaine, yes, did I say Michelle Reeves?
You did. Well, that's okay. I got it. I got your back.
Sorry, Charmaine. She's amazing. But today we are here about Michelle. Michelle, I'm going to read a little bit about you, and then we're just going to sort of get into it for a little bit. We have two guests. So Michelle, we're going to give Michelle ladies first, and then we're going to bring on Markech.blake. So stay tuned for that, okay? Michelle Ricketts. Cohesion Services, powered by Wardell International. We're going to find out more about that. Raised by a strong, independent, single mother. Vision and values were instilled at an early age. In addition to 33 years in corporate roles, well, she started when she was 10. Michelle's entrepreneurial journey started in the 90s. We kind of gave it away there. In the 90s in event planning and speaking. Her passion shaped Michelle's experience, providing innumerable opportunities to give back as a volunteer. Overall health, wellness, and fitness always played a part in Michelle's life and continue to be a part of her consulting approach today, differentiating her from others in the industry. I just love the health and wellness, that holistic approach. It'd be wonderful to do business with someone like that who, you know, things aren't easy today. The stress is how to overcome that in health and wellness. That would be great. Passionate about making a difference, Michelle is on a philanthropic foundation board of advisors, building sustainable schools in developing countries, and supports the efforts of a Digital Samurai, an entrepreneur focused on reducing your unemployment in Africa through apprenticeships. Michelle, is that Digital Samurai? Is that your brother's as well?
It is. That's my brother's business. Yes, Digital Samurai.
Oh, wow. We got to get him on. This guy does some incredible work. So that's wonderful to hear. Okay, so now tell us a little bit more about Michelle.
Well, and as you said, and thank you for that intro. I just love that. Thank you. As it said there, all my life, and I did the math the other day, and it's actually 35 years. So
Woo!
in the corporate world. And I saw I'd given you that, but that I had the opportunity to work in 3 great industries. I started off in media, then got into transportation and logistics, and then financial services. And in that career, I really learned so much, and I enjoyed. I don't believe in getting up in the morning, looking yourself in the mirror, and not liking what you do. So I really enjoyed my career there. And then all that time, I've also had that athletic side. So it started in high school it started way before that. My mom had us in ballet at 5 and gymnastics at an early age. I did diving before I could even swim. So it started earlier, but the key for me was in high school when I did track and field. And then after I started to get into bodybuilding. I was a competitive bodybuilder for 4 years.
Wow.
I did both individual and couples. And then I also, from there, got into teaching aerobics. And I've always had that athletic background. I still do something active 5 or 6 days a week. I did my workout this morning, a little dance, and then a fitness workout. And then I'm playing badminton tonight. So
wow.
I realized for myself, that is part of that's what lights me up in the morning. And I do work out in the morning, but it also has helped me in, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's really me as my business world and my personal world. And they converge in my personal universe to make, just to enjoy life.
So what is Cohesion Services powered by Wardell International? What's that all about?
Yeah, great question. So when I was in the early 90s, when it talked about the business with doing events and such, I sort of brought that into 2017, 2018. I started doing events for entrepreneurs. I brought in speakers to have them share their tools and techniques so that the business owners could, then we called it a 3-day weekend lifestyle was the brand, and they could balance life more and have more time to do things that they enjoyed. Doing that, it showed me that entrepreneurs don't always have the knowledge or the access to information that we learn in the corporate world. A business is built on the same foundation, whether it's small, large, medium, or large. Mm-hmm. So when I've had the opportunity to be restructured 3 times in my career, and in 2019, November 2019 was the most recent. And at that point, I looked at it and I said, I've loved what I do, but I feel I want to do something else. I enjoyed that event series, and I want to help entrepreneurs to move forward faster, move forward better, stronger. And so I looked at where I had some gaps in my knowledge. And Mark Wardell was introduced to me by a very good friend of mine, actually 18, almost 19 years ago. And I knew who he was. I didn't really know a lot about what he did, the sort of the nitty gritty. And so I talked to Mark, and when we looked at it, what he has done over the years is help business owners to scale and grow on a strong foundation, looking at their systems and processes to be able to move forward and add value to their business. And I said, wow, that's the missing piece. So I used Mark's program in my business, Cohesion Services, and that's why I say Cohesion Services powered by Wardell International.
Okay. And what about your clientele? Who are you looking for, or who's looking for you?
Well, that's a great question, because really it's interesting, because a lot of business owners don't even realize that they're looking for me. It's that business owner is doing everything in their business. They're really not having time to do the things they like, their sales, their marketing, their customer service. They may even have employees, and they often do, and those employees are doing something, but they're still overseeing everything. Everything's still coming through them. They haven't let go to be able to live their life and do things that they have a focus on. So the client I'm looking for is that person. They're doing everything. They're not having the time to do the things they love. Their business is moving, but it's really not scalable. And so if you now imagine that same business owner with some guidance, who's able to delegate and even sometimes eliminate the things that they're doing, and then be able to focus on their core competency, generate revenues, get their business moving forward, being able to scale, and they still have time to do those things that excite them. That's who's looking for me. And so that's who I love to help, and able to get them to get that strong foundation, the processes, the systems in their business.
So because it can be overwhelming, this entrepreneur
Yes.
journey out here, especially. And people are really trying to really do it. There's people working so hard, like yourself and Mark and so many others. But now, if you have a lot of experience. So to impart that, because you could get frazzled. So what kind of perspective how could you start off giving people the right perspective in terms of how to look at every area of that business?
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the things that you said people are doing a lot, and they are, and one of the things that people need to do, both business and in life, is prioritize. Now, that's not saying that other things are not important, but it's also being able to look at your day, to look at your week, to look at your month, your year, and 5 years out. You look at and you plan. And a big piece of that is scheduling. My brother calls queen of routine and calendar, because it is about scheduling and putting things in your calendar so they can get out of your head, looking at the priorities, setting strategic objectives for your business or goals for your business and your life, and having those things aligned, because if they're not aligned, you're out of consistency, you're out of whack. So they need to align. So that really allows the business owner and the individual to manage life, manage business, and have that. I don't say the word balance, because a lot of people say work-life balance. I think it's integration, integrating your work and your personal life to be able for both to flow and move forward properly.
Now, would you be more of are you a coach slash consultant, or what would your title be in terms of?
Well, in the Wardell International world, I'm a business advisor, but for myself, I prefer to be referred to as a consultant, because I feel that's what I'm doing. I'm consulting with the client. I'm not telling them do this. I'm not mandating that they do this. And to me, that's a bit more of what a coach does. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do this, right? To be that Olympian or to be that successful, whatever it is. So as a consultant, I am advising them to say, okay, this is what I see for you, this is where I think you should go. But at the end of the day, it's their business and it's their decision.
So when do you sort of fuse this health part into it when you're working with clients?
Yes, and that great question. For me, it does need to be that integration. But when I speak with a client, when I'm working with a client, the first thing that I ask every session is, how are you? And how are you has become a greeting. It's not a greeting. I wrote an article a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn about it, to say it's not a greeting, it's a question. And so you need to listen for the answer. And if you don't want the answer, do not ask. So when I listen for the answer, I'm asking, and they know they can't say fine. And it's funny, initially you see that sort of that pause where they go to say fine, or sometimes they say it and I say, okay. But they have to actually tell me are you stressed today? Are you pissed off today? Are you, tired today? Are you frustrated today? What's happening in your world, in your life? Because when I help you with your business and guide you there, I also want to make sure that your health and your wellness and your fitness is aligned. And that is, are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating nutritious food? Are you able to get exercise? And that's going to mean something different for everybody. Right. But you need to find what works for you. You need to find what works for your family and your life and your business. But you've got to make sure that you look at that. Because if you don't look at yourself, and something's going to happen, our bodies are so good at shutting us down and telling us stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so we have to.
I was just thinking that sometimes when you're feeling so you don't know enough, because you have a lot of experience, that people are starting out and just trying to figure this all out, especially in this virtual world, right? So yeah. I'm sure you've had to go through that yourself, but the business part of it, you're certainly not new to that. So is it an issue with people sometimes they don't have the correct perspective as to what they need, or that they just sort of struggle through working harder, not necessarily smarter? Could that be it as well?
Yeah, that's a lot of it. And sometimes, right, I've been saying to people, right now is the time to plan. Well, a couple of months ago would have been a better time to plan. But planning for 2022 or planning for the new year, you want to do that ahead. But it is that a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, and even people in corporate world, they're working, work harder. I'm going to work harder. But you need a strategy. It's not just about that's my plan, I'm going to work harder. The smarter part has to come in, and that's where the strategy comes in. And a lot of times we can't see the forest for the trees, and so we're in it and not necessarily the ones that can evaluate what that strategy should be and could be. So we do that as well. I mean, I work with clients ongoing, over months, but we also do a strategy session. So I come in and do a 1 or 2 day strategy session, just looking at, okay, I need somebody to help me refocus, to help me look at where do I need to go? What do I need to change to move forward? Because when you're in it, you don't see sometimes what your employees or friends or family are suggesting to you may or may not be a good idea. I was talking to my cousin yesterday, and I said to him, you've got to decide at the end of the day. But the voices, the people that are giving you suggestions, they may be right or they may not be. So you want to make sure that you're listening to the right people and you're making the right decisions. And that's where a consultant like myself could come in.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful, because obviously you want somebody with you've got a great amount of experience. And I think it'd be a wonderful opportunity for our listeners. If you want to get in touch with Michelle, I think this would be great. Simply because I've noticed for myself that sometimes, like, I do a lot of training vocally, right, with my instructor. And I don't look for somebody that's just, I want to know you have your experience and that you've got, when I was looking for an instructor years ago, I've had my trainer for 16 years. And she is amazing. And people tell me about this one that's the hottest thing out. And this one, they work with Michael Jackson. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, but this woman knows my voice. She has the experience for my voice. So I'm likening it to what you're just saying to me. And you have the experience, because if I'm frazzled and I'm working harder and I don't have the perspective, it's like a lot of things, right? Sometimes if it's right, you're right in it. You really can't see that you need something tweaked or something.
I'll add to that as well, is that a lot of people think of this consulting or coaching or advising for startups or new businesses. And It's not. It really also is for that business that's been in business, 5, 10, even 15 years. They are so used to doing what they've done. They are maybe even holding themselves back from being able to move forward on a greater level, generating more revenue, having more clients, because they haven't changed. And sometimes we get so stuck on, well, no, that works, I'll do it that way. But there's so many changes and innovations and things that can help a business that if you don't stop to look at some of those things, you are going to be stuck where you've been for quite. And maybe you're okay with that, but a lot of business owners aren't. They may even say they are, but in the back of their minds are thinking, well, I'd like to make a little more. I'd like a little more time off. I'd like to give my employees maybe a more bonus, whatever it is that you have that aspiration for. Right. Sometimes it's saying, okay, I do need another individual, a third party to look at this and say, you can change this.
So what's happening on the planet right now with all of this COVID and so on? How has that affected your business?
It's interesting because we really felt that there would be more need, and knew that there would be more need for consultants and someone to help businesses move forward through 2020, 2021, 2022. It hasn't worked out quite as much that way as we expected, because a lot of businesses are afraid. They're scared. They don't know where the next shutdown is going to happen. They don't know how that's going to affect them. They don't know what revenues are going to be coming in, because the last year and a half, 18 months has been so up and down for them. So they're just hanging on. They're holding back. They're spending. They're not investing in their business. They're not investing in their progress. And that, in some cases, that's going to hold them back even more. But I understand where they're coming from. It's been a very challenging time for a lot of business owners.
And so are you able to help people that are starting up, or are you looking at something greater? Your sprawl is greater than that. Are you able to look at people that are just beginning?
Yeah, great question. I can. The preference would be actually, though, to work with businesses that have been in business 3 to 5 years or more, because then they have a going concern that I can actually help them with and work on. My expertise is not in helping them create their business. If they have an idea and they're just kind of getting forward, it is more in looking at them doing the foundation, but it's based on sort of what they have in place, making sure that what they have in place has the proper people, processes, systems, etc. in. Not to say that it wouldn't work with startups, and I did in 2021. I worked with four smaller businesses in a group format, because they do one-to-one and group. But I found there that it's better served with a business that's been in business for, as I say, at least 3 to 5 years.
When the show Voices of Humanity is fueled by double consciousness, we talked a little bit about this backstage. Have you found, in terms of systemic barriers, as living as, because we have those of us that came across the trade, transatlantic slave trade, we are challenged with two streams of thought, two social identities, and that means that we have been assimilated upon trauma for hundreds of years. A lot of things have been passed on to us, and we show up a certain way in the 21st century. But how does that affect you in terms of a woman, a Black woman in business, and then your home culture, your culture? How does that affect you?
Yes, absolutely. And I was listening to one of your other interviews, and you talked about the code switching, and I thought that was so interesting. It really got me thinking, because I felt my mother's background, my mother's Jamaican background, we were born in England, because she moved over there during the 50s, 60s. The English government was actually encouraging Caribbeans to come. They foresaw a shortage in the medical field, nurses, doctors, etc. And so my mom became a nurse and studied in England. And so with that, coming to Canada, she wanted to ensure that we had a place to live, that we didn't get, and, excuse the language, but somebody saying, "Get out of my backyard, you black bastard," right? She literally felt that. She had experienced racism.
Wow.
So she brought us into a very white world, and nothing with that at all, except growing up, I didn't really see the difference, and I feel that I don't see colors, but I have felt that I'm a Black woman in a white world a lot. And I have one of my very closest friends, I always say to him, "You're more Black than I am," and he's white. So we joke about that. But in all seriousness, it is something that I've had to deal with, because going to the States, going to Jamaica, other parts of the world that I have visited, I do feel a lot of times that I am a white woman in a Black woman's body. So it's really coming to terms with that. And I'm just about to do a collaborative book called Uncovered, Women in 2022 and Beyond. And it really is looking at some of that. My chapter is looking at some of that and the background, the upbringing, and that's part of a larger book we'll do on my own in the coming year. But it's something that it's new to me. And when you said code switching, that was so. It put it somewhat in perspective, because I'd never heard that term before, and I thought, okay, I see that, I understand that. And everything in the news right now, it's bringing a lot of this to bear, right? With the different instances that we've seen with
absolutely
so much. Yeah.
Just for clarity for our listeners, code switching is when code switching used to be about language, really. Excuse me. So you have an Italian friend, I have an Italian friend, and they, you watch them seamlessly transition from English. They're talking to you in English, talking to them, and they go back and talk to their mother in Italian, and then they come back to you in English, and it's seamless. But it morphed into something else, which means, for all intents and purposes, everybody will know what I'm talking about. You Monday to Friday, you show up, you're white, you're acting white at work. This thing when people say you're acting white, my sister here, Michelle, just alluded to that. And then you're with your family, you're acting Black, or you get to work and you're, or you may even do the opposite. And some people, depends on what's going on in your world. But so code switching, it really is double consciousness. Double consciousness goes into it in depth, and that's what we do in our trainings. It goes into it more because these two streams of thought, two social identities, some people want to close that gap and have more of a sense of self. And it doesn't have to do with your personality disorder or anything, but it does have to do with your personality and how you've been assimilated. This happened way back in the time warp, and we pass that on. Our parents will tell us, don't get locked, you can't get a job, or speak the Queen's English. You know what I mean? As compared to what? But no slang allowed. So we learn to show up differently in different social arenas. We really do.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're not aware we're doing it. It is such part of the assimilation process. So I just was curious as to what, that has meant for you in terms of business. And it depends on, again, where we've been reared and where we've studied and so on.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been fortunate enough that I haven't encountered the type of racism that a lot of Black people do, and Black women in particular. But I know there are times in my career where it had touched me, and sometimes it as a woman. I remember, starting off, I worked for a newspaper and dealt with car dealerships and real estate. And there were a couple, then I looked really young, right out of college. And there were a couple of instances where I had to really deal with some really sexist comments. And in one case, I had to watch what I wore if I was going to see that individual that day, because it was more than just some of the comments. And so that was, I think, woman perspective. And from a Black woman perspective, there was a role that I had gotten as a sales manager, and I probably one of the hardest things for me to do in my early career, because I was an account executive and I had never thought about managing and didn't see myself in that role. And when I decided to apply for it and I got it, I was elated, absolutely elated. My initial mentor was amazing, and still today I actually see him around town now and then. Amazing individual. But when he left, and the following experience was challenging, and I felt like it was, I was never sure whether it was a racist thing or a female thing, but I definitely felt like it was a boys' club, and I wasn't part of it. And they were not gonna help me to succeed. And eventually I did lose my job. So, and part of it was me. I wasn't the best manager at the time. I hadn't learned some of the nuances of managing at the time. But part of it, I was asking for help and I wasn't getting it. And so you never know whether it is a racial thing, whether it is a woman thing. I mean, they're both a type of racism, but it was a challenge, definitely, and something that impacted me in my career at that time.
And trust me, to our listeners, it's not that people are looking for it under every bush, but this sort of implicit, unintentional bias it's in our system. And so those of us, especially in the arenas I work in, I see so many people suffering under it, and they just have no idea how to get from under it in business, in the corporate world, and so on. But now, Michelle, if someone is out here and they, so my question would be, how would people have an idea that they really need you? So what's happening in my business that would tell me that I could use Michelle Ricketts to come in? And you mentioned mentoring, and you have one yourself, and I'm learning that is so important.
Absolutely,
it really is.
Absolutely. It is. And it really is a business owner out there who knows that they need to do something to change. They are still too involved in their business to be able to get out and do those things that excite them. And we're not saying like walk away from it, but it's being able to have a weekend, or if you took 2 weeks off, would your business still run in spite of you? If that's not the case, then you got to stop and think, I need somebody to help me to get to that position so I can enjoy life, do more that excites me.
Right. So we would consider you a great investment, no?
Yeah. Thank you.
Fabulous. And if people need to reach you today, if they wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Probably the easiest way is to look me up on LinkedIn, Michelle Ricketts, just under my name. But Michelle Ricketts, is probably the easiest way. I'm on Facebook, my Facebook page, or my profile, either of those. But LinkedIn is probably the best.
Wonderful. It's been a pleasure meeting you, and I'm so glad you've come to share. And the holistic part of it, I think, is really catchy for you. I love that. Business is stressful, so if we can get a coach in there too in terms of wellness, that would be amazing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I love the opportunity. It's been a thrill talking.
My pleasure, Michelle. My pleasure. Thank you so much. We're going to have a little bit of a break, and then we're going to get back to you. Okay? See you soon. Hi there, I'm Sandra McKechnie from Double Consciousness. Double Consciousness looks like this: cultural sensitivity, cultural awareness trainings. I've been doing it for 4 years. We're going into our 5th year, our 41st time on Zoom, and we're doing it. Would love you to join us. The next thing that I do is I'm a certified life coach holding space for clients in the areas of cultural awareness and sensitivity, right? So people that may have a challenge and they just want some space, a consultation, coaching opportunity to unpack implicit racial bias. Everybody's welcome, and we would love to have you in the trainings or book a consultation. And we have a free opportunity, 15 minutes, if you want to have a chat and get to know me and find out where you fit in that. The next thing that I do is I am a host for Voices of Humanity out of prconnectionsradio.com. If you want to be on my podcast and you're a fit, because it does have to fit with the show, has to complement the show and the network, I would love you to get in touch with me. And I'm also, from my heart, and I've always been a singer-songwriter, and I love this stuff. I love the singing. We put it in our trainings, our cultural sensitivity and awareness trainings. So sometimes I just sing, just like this. You're all that I want. You are all that I need. And you brought me here when I can't find my way. You're all that I need. And you brought me here to pray. You should hear that with my keyboard player. It's to live for. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that helps you to know who Sandra McKechnie is. Take care. Bye for now. Hey, she's so cute. Hi, Mark.
How are you?
Hello, Mark Blake. This is Mark Blake. This is our next guest. We're thrilled to have him. I'm going to read just a little bit about you, Mark, before we get into it. Okay, Mark Blake. This is a little bit about Mark. Mark is an independent financial services professional working with his clients to ensure their families, businesses, and assets are protected, helping them to attain financial independence and assisting them in creating a legacy to leave their loved ones. Mark also serves as the Director of Business Development for a veteran nonprofit, helping service members secure gainful employment after leaving the service. In his spare time, he enjoys attending live sporting events, reading, traveling, and enjoying a fine cigar from time to time. I love the humanity part there. Very nice. Welcome to Mark Blake. I would love to find out a little bit more about you and your business.
Sure. I watched a little bit of your interview with Michelle, and like Michelle, I've grown up. I'm a military veteran, and my dad is a veteran. He served in the military also, and I grew up overseas. Before I was 18, I used to tell people when I was young, I'd been to more countries at the age of 18 than most 30-year-olds had been to.
Really?
Yeah, I lived in Europe, grew up in Germany, and traveled all throughout Europe during my formative years from age 8 to 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. You must have seen a lot and heard a lot.
I've seen, as of right now, so far I've been to 5 of the 7 continents. The 2 I haven't been to, Australia and Antarctica. I'll let you guess which one I'm not going to go to.
So wait, you traveled for 10 years.
Yes. I traveled for 10 years, just in and around Europe. Then when I joined the military myself, I got a chance to go to Africa, other parts of Asia. Yeah. More countries in Europe. So, and down in South America also, just through my deployments and service to the country.
So tell me about this passion to help people coming out of the military transitioning as civilians. Why are you so passionate about that and in your business?
I've been where they are. And I retired out of the military, out of the Navy 20 years ago. And a lot of the things that there are now, those things weren't around when I retired. So it was like you have to go and help yourself. back then. You had to help yourself find a job. We went to a little training where they showed you how to do a resume, because a lot of military members are joining at 18. You never have to do a resume when you're in the military. They just send you from duty station to duty station. So learning how to write a resume and how to apply for jobs, that was the big thing. And now we're showing what we do is before they transition, before they get out, we're helping them, introducing them to recruiters. We're showing them how to write a resume, or sending them to free services to help them write a resume. We're showing them how to network, because networking is a big part of how people are getting jobs nowadays. They say only 10% of all jobs are advertised.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's interesting.
So we're connecting them on LinkedIn with individuals, recruiters, corporate recruiters, and also executive recruiters, to help them get positions when they get out, not just a job, but a career. Because they say the average veteran, when they get out, they have, back in the day it was 7 jobs. Now it's down to 4 jobs before they find their forever job. And we're trying to limit that down to just 1.
So what do you find sort of emotionally happens with some of the veterans, like in terms of
scary?
Is it?
It's scary. Wow. Yeah, it's very scary, because for anywhere from 6 to 20 years plus, you've been told what to wear every day, where to go, what to do. And now you've gained this freedom, if you will. And it's like, okay, what do I have to wear to work? How do I act at work? Like you talked about, Michelle, with code switching. For veterans, it's kind of like the same thing, because our language in the military is different than in the civilian world.
That's a whole double consciousness on its own.
Yes.
My goodness.
And when you and Michelle were talking, I've got triple consciousness, because I've got to go from civilian to military, black to white, so it's basically the same thing as the code switching for us as people of color.
Yes, you've got a number of intersections then.
Yes, because the lingo is different through each branch. So when you get out, we have to teach the veterans that when you're doing a resume, take all that military lingo out of your resume, because if me as a veteran looked at your resume, I may know what this word is, or what this acronym means, but that's not going to mean anything to anyone that's getting out, or that's any recruiter that's looking at your resume.
Wow. How much time do you spend doing this yourself, like being a part of it?
As probably about anywhere from 5 to 15 hours a week. And this is just on a volunteer basis. Yeah, this isn't even my job. It's all volunteer. Goodness. Yeah. And it's because I love doing it, and I feel that it's a form of paying it forward, if you will.
Oh my goodness, that's wonderful. Do you encourage people to be in touch with you if they need you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've got a few meetings today after this with some veterans.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I sure admire that, Mark. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you.
So now tell me about the business, because you've put them, sort of connected them together on some level.
Yes. On the advising side, and I hate using the word advisor, I provide guidance, and it's up to you, the individual, whether or not you want to take the guidance and put it forth, or not. And what I do is that same thing when these veterans are getting out. There are a lot of benefits that you have as a veteran, because they give us a lot of stuff, whether you're separating from the military or retiring. The benefits that each side gets, they're a little different. And what I do is I talk to them about, getting life insurance, building up what we call in the military a war chest, so that when you get out, you don't have to go to work right away.
It's called a war chest?
War chest. And financially speaking, it's just savings. It's just your 3 to 6 months of savings. That's all.
Right.
You say war chest because that's some of the language that we speak. You build up a war chest so that when you get out, you can take time to find that forever job and not have to take the first position that is being offered to you because you've got bills to pay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this war chest, you are they doing that before they decide to come back?
They should be, but and that's the thing. I've gone from talking to people who are transitioning out to reaching out to service members, excuse me, who have been in for a while and aren't getting out just yet, just to give them some guidance. Like these are some things that you need to do before you decide you want to get out of the military. And some people are getting out, and I've had clients who've gotten out, and they've had that war chest, and it's a little bit easier for them because they have a growth mindset as far as their finances go, and they know that they need to be saving. And that's the problem with a lot of young service members. They're in there, they're getting that paycheck, and they're living paycheck to paycheck, but they're not following what I like to call the financial golden rules, which is as far as, spending and saving.
Tell me about those rules.
Well, it's a simple rule, and this is for everyone. This works for everyone. What you need to do is take your take-home pay and split it up. You want 50% on your needs, and only 28% of that should be on your mortgage or rent. 30% on your wants, and then 20% should be savings. And that savings should be split between saving for your emergency fund, your 3 to 6 months of household expenses, and then also investing. The other 10% is investing.
So those that had that war chest, it must have given them a little bit of comfort for sure. Like,
oh yes, definitely. Yeah, because like I say, when you're worried about providing for your family when you get out, and if you don't have that money saved up, or if you don't have at least 3 to 6 months saved up, you got to be looking for a job immediately.
Wow.
And I mean, everyone's looking for the job immediately, but you're going to be taking the first thing that's offered to you. One of my, he's not a client because he didn't qualify, but he's a good friend of mine. And when he got out, he did the exact same thing. He needed a job. He took the first thing that he was offered to him, doing basically the same thing that he was doing in the military. He said he lasted 2 months in that position just because he wasn't happy. Yeah.
Wow.
So if
go ahead.
Excuse me. So if you have that war chest built up, you don't have to take the first thing. You can find out what it is that you want to do as an individual, or as we like to say, what you want to be when you grow up.
Oh, yes. I'm still growing up.
Yes.
Okay. But I loved speaking to you when we met because I recognize that how important it is, the stuff I had to I had to get a hit doing the work that I do with marginalized peoples and so-called minorities. Sometimes a lot of them are people doing fantastic work, have their finances in order and so on, but there is quite a number that are really not aware of that. Like, it's just has not been a part of lineage for some of us, how to handle those dollars,
Yeah, and that's why, especially to people of color, I talk to them about how they can leave that legacy. And for us, it's as Black people, it's hard because, like you say, they don't teach it in school anymore, and because our parents didn't know or don't know, it's no fault of theirs that they don't know. But with everything that's out there now, if you don't know financially what you should be doing, shame on you, because there are too many resources out there.
There is. I do agree, Mark. I do agree. So when people, how do people recognize that they really need a Mark Blake? So how would I figure that out in myself?
Everyone knows that they need someone who does what I do.
Okay.
No one wants to talk to that person. It's a scary talk. And some people, they think that I'm not rich. I don't need an advisor. You are the one that needs the advisor more than someone who is rich.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah. And there is no dollar amount that you have to have in order to talk to an advisor. If you're saving money, talk to an advisor because you may not be saving money in the most efficient manner, the most tax efficient manner. And what I've been teaching people is I say teaching because I provide a financial education.
Yes, definitely.
And what I'm teaching them is when you're saving money, not just investing, but also saving, you want to put your savings in some place that is safe. And in order for it to be safe, it's got to have three components.
Right.
It's got to be something that's not where you're not going to lose money, where you're getting at least a level of interest that's above inflation, and most importantly, it's got to be something that you want, something liquid, because your investments, those aren't liquid. That's your long-term strategy. That's where you want to put your long-term money for when you retire. That's 20, 30 years out. But you want to have a savings that's maybe in a safe place, that if your car breaks down, you've got liquid money. You know, you can go touch that. That's part of that 20% savings in your 3 to 6 months of household expenses.
It's interesting because just, being the people, I find that some of it has a lot to do with pride,
Yeah.
And the fact that, I'm not talking about the business. And we're kind of suffering in silence in the corner. So what would you say to those people so that they could reach out to you?
I would say just reach out, ask questions. If you have financial questions, ask someone in the know.
I think that's, yes, absolutely.
Ask someone in the know. And I pride myself on my integrity, and also the fact that if you don't want to work with me, that's fine, but I'm going to give you this education.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and you don't have to work with me, but just work with someone. That's what I tell all of my clients, especially my veterans, when they're getting out. You don't have to work with me, just work with someone to get this, to get yourself
I'd love
started.
to see our listeners work with Mark. He's got a beautiful spirit and a passion for what you do, especially in terms of our veterans.
Yes.
So what would you want people to, where can people find you?
Definitely on LinkedIn. That's I'm heavy on LinkedIn. I'm doing a lot of posting. I post a lot about my veterans because I love them, but I'm also putting out financial information occasionally, just some basic things. I don't want to put anything out there that about the market, but just basic things like my golden rule, of 50-30-20 rule. I like to put that out there, and just ways in which you can save money on a tax-free basis and grow your wealth, and how people, because at my age, it's already too late for me. As hard as I work, unless I hit the lottery, I'm never going to be a millionaire. Well, maybe, but I can show people how to make their children and their grandchildren millionaires, and basically pass on that generational wealth that I hear so many people talk about, but nobody really knows what it is. They think having a house is generational wealth, or owning land is generational wealth. Yeah. I've seen people in my family have owned land, and when they passed on, they passed it down to their children. And because their children don't live in the same geographical area, they're like, I'm never going down there, or I'm never going up there. I'll just sell it. But if you teach them how to create a legacy, one of the things I talk to my clients about is I tell them, if you want to learn how to create a legacy, read this one book. It's called What Would the Rockefellers Do?
Interesting.
It's by Garrett B. Gunderson. And I tell them this: there are two really rich families back in the early 1900s, the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts. Gloria Vanderbilt's family, and everyone knows who the Rockefellers were. The Rockefellers, you don't hear about them working, having to have jobs with companies or anything like that. But the Vanderbilts, you hear about them working. Anderson Cooper is a descendant of the Vanderbilts. And it's because the way the Rockefellers set up their money and set up a trust for their money, it's amazing. And anyone can do it. Anyone can do it.
You know, I think we had spoke about this when we had our little virtual chat, our virtual curry goat and rice. We had a good time. But one of the things that's interesting is that wealth and income is a challenge that, you know, I was thinking upon emancipation, we didn't get the 40 acres and a mule in Canada.
Yeah.
We'd be looking fantastic doing business with the States.
Yeah.
But we didn't get that. And that the income and the wealth, and really we're just a few percent of the pie, not the LeBron wealth, Oprah wealth. We're still just a few percent of that pie. So, and relative to income, a lot of people save a lot, but we don't know how the components of that. Sticking it onto your mattress perhaps may not be the best action to take.
You sticking it on, even putting it in a bank nowadays isn't your best best road for increasing your wealth.
I hear you. Amen. Amen.
Yeah. You know, like I said earlier, what you want to do is put your money someplace where it's going to be safe. You're not going to lose money, and it'll always grow at a rate that's over inflation. Wow.
What suggestions do you have there?
There's only 3 things that do that.
Okay.
There's a Roth IRA, which is you put tax-free money in or after-tax dollars into your Roth. It grows tax-deferred. When you withdraw money out of that, it's tax-free. But the only problem with the Roth is there's a $6,000 limit. You're over $50,000, $7,000. You know. Then there's tax-free municipal bonds, and the only problem with those is they're slow. The growth on those is slow. Only my clients who are nearing retirement and need a flow of income, I do that for them, and you know, people who are in retirement. And the last is cash value life insurance. And with this, it's just like a Roth. You're contributing after-tax dollars. It grows tax deferred, and any withdrawals that you take from your life insurance policy are tax-free. The great thing about it, there is no income limit on it. You can make $1 million. You can make $50,000 and contribute to a life insurance policy. And if you're doing it for your child, all it takes is $500, and that child could be a millionaire by the time they reach retirement age. $500 a month for 15 years. That's it. $90,000, I believe it is altogether.
I think it'd be wonderful for you to walk people through this.
Yeah. And that's what I do when I meet with my clients. I show them this is what can happen for your child. And that's how, and then once you start it with your child, you explain it to them, they can explain it to their children, do it for their children, their grandchildren. And then you're creating that legacy and that generational wealth. So
in terms of real estate, how does that work? Is that something that you encourage at this point?
Sure. Real estate, real estate is great because, one, they're not making any more of it, except for in Dubai. I've seen them make islands in Dubai, but that's on them. Yeah, but real estate is something to get into, but you have to have that talk with your family members that you're passing this down to, even if they're not in that geographic location. We're going to keep this. You know, we want to keep this in the family.
Right. Okay. And that's how many other groups do it.
Yes. Yeah, that exactly. You don't
come out pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, and if I understand selling the land to developers, but if you put it in a trust and then make it so where people have to vote on it inside the trust, your family members have to vote and have a majority wins, then maybe you keep the land in the family for a little bit longer.
Okay. So the person that comes to you feeling, even now, maybe watching this on the replay, like, share, and comment, of course. If you're watching it on the replay, we'd certainly appreciate that. But if they're watching and they're thinking, oh man, I'd like to get in touch with Blake, but I'm feeling kind of like, I don't have any money. I just have a little bit of something. What are you going to tell them?
I tell them, come to me and talk to me anyway. I can help you budget your money.
Okay.
So that when you start, when you're ready,
right,
and you've got that little bit of surplus, that little bit of extra money that we can contribute to something, we can go from there. It's never too late to start.
I love your attitude on that, because that's so the truth. Wow. Thank you so much. Is there anywhere else they can get in touch with you? LinkedIn, you said, right?
LinkedIn is I'm primarily on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook, my personal page on Facebook. You can just look me up under Mark Blake.
Okay.
says veteran advocate. That's my first title, because I'm a veteran myself. And then financial service professional is just what I do.
Thank you so much. You know what? Please be in touch with Mark Blake. I'd love to sit down with somebody like him myself. He's got a wonderful disposition and he's very professional. I appreciate you, Mark. And when the video goes out, we're actually going to put all his handles, Mark Blake and Michelle Ricketts. Michelle, thank you again for being such a wonderful guest. And Mark, this was a good time.
Thank you for having me, Sandra. I appreciate it.
And I will see you around. We connected. Where did we connect? HNP, yeah, right?
Actually, through Michelle. Michelle introduced us, and then we met.
That's right. And then we did our virtual thing.
We did our virtual thing. Then we were on a Happy Neighborhood project together.
I thought this was a great show. Thank you so much, Mark. And I know we're going to see each other again soon. This was great to be here. This is Sandra McKechnie. This is Voices of Humanity at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Voices of Humanity.